Hey everybody, it's Grant, and today we are going over one of the most controversial topics in real estate today. Build versus buy. When it comes to new construction, even the most seasoned veteran investors do not fully understand it. So I hope today's video shines a little light on this mysterious topic. However, don't worry, in today's video, I'm going to be explaining the pros and the cons on both, and I'm going to give you a little sprinkle, if you will, of my personal opinion on which I actually prefer. To start off, I believe real estate is one of the absolute greatest ways to build wealth on our planet. Where else can you use leverage to buy a cash flowing property that can literally increase your net worth overnight? You can do all of this amazing stuff with just 3 to 20% down going through real estate, and I just don't see anything else on the planet like it. I personally don't like to throw a ton of flexes in videos, but I will say this one. Because of real estate, I personally rose my net worth just with 2 deals last quarter, $1.55 million. And I've shared them both with you. One was the property tour of my brand new home, and the other was the 13 apartment complex I purchased. And I just tell you, without real estate, none of that was possible. I teach here on the channel that real estate is a building effect. You don't just get to magically snap your fingers and become a millionaire. I've actually been doing real estate for 14 years now. When I was 18 years old, I started out selling cars, ended up working my way up, but also while I was 18 years old, I ended up buying my first half of a duplex. And just like in my sales career where I was promoted to manager, I grew over time in my real estate career. I ended up at 19 years old being offered the other half of that duplex for $16,000 less than I paid. I said, ooh, someone else is making money, because if they're gonna offer it to me at 80 grand when I paid 96, they're still making money at 80. I need to be the builder and not the buyer. So at 19 years old, I built my first duplex, bought the land, built a duplex, lived in one side, rented the other side, and completely eliminated my monthly mortgage expenses. Not only that, by the age 25, I built my first complex where I built 5 apartments that taught me I can do more and I can handle more. I truly believe that slow and steady is the way to win the race. I never want you to get over your head with this large deal and you're pulling in all these partners. You can do it that way. You can do it with 3 to 5% down, or you can be recession proof and do it with 20% down, wait, and have that pain of discipline to save that 20%. So that way when you buy that property, it cash flows, makes it a lot better investment for you, and also you don't lose it during tough economic times. I come from a pretty successful family with a ton of people that are actually great influences on me that are also very successful business people. But I still truly believe slow and steady is the absolute best way, and I never want to get ahead of myself. Even if maybe somebody would bail me out, but at the same time, I'll never chance it. So me saying all of that just means this. Find a deal that fits you. Find a deal, save up the money, whether it's 3 to 5% or 20% down, and then make that deal happen. Whatever is in your income, whatever is in your business plan in the next 3 to 5 years, if it's gonna take you that long to save, I really don't think it will, because understand this, these little deals add up to huge profits. Now, let's get into the pros and cons of build versus buy. The first major difference between building and buying a project is going to be the barrier to entry, or the capital that it takes to get started. If you're gonna buy a property, the minimum that you're gonna need down is 3 to 5% if you're gonna live in it, plus closing cost. Yet when building a property, whether you're gonna do a home or an investment property, you are gonna need a minimum of 15 to 20% down to actually accomplish this goal. If you buy a property that had a huge amount of equity, let's say you bought a property that had $100,000 value, but you paid $50,000. The average bank or lender will not actually allow you to use the full appraisal value until it's 2 years that it's been in your name. They'll use the purchase price because they like to squeeze in that little bit more equity to make sure their investment's that much better. The second major difference between building and buying a property is the difficulty of the projects. When buying a property, you're going to want to find a deal that suits your buying model. If you don't have a buying model yet, You can develop one very simply. All it is how much you're going to spend at most on certain types of properties. We can make a whole video on this, but just understand that it's almost like a policies and procedures for you personally as you buy. So that way you don't make a mistake, get too emotionally attached to a property, and spend too much. Most seasoned investors will also tell you that you only want to buy a cosmetic fixer-upper. You want to do something where it comes to something as bad as a roof. You can change your roof, but if it comes to a structural issue, you're going to want to back off because you just never know what you're going to find. After you find a deal, you're going to make an offer or several offers because you might have to go back and forth and just keep countering until you find a deal that works. Also, I tell you, never get emotionally attached to a deal because then you'll pay too much. And deals are like buses. One passes, well, that stinks. Another one will be by shortly. Most people don't believe that, but it is so true. And I've shared with you all of my deals here on the channel. Once you've made the offer and they've accepted it, then you actually get an inspection on that property. Now, this is completely optional depending on what state you live in, but by getting the property inspected, you got a better idea of what you're buying, and then you can proceed to go through with it, ask them to fix the little things, or ask for a price reduction to make this deal happen. All of that just to say this: buying a property is way more simplistic than building. Building, when it comes to level of difficulty, is pretty tough. The first thing you have to do is find the right contractor that you trust and you know is going to do this in a timely manner. After that, you've got to find the right location. If you put it in too good of an area, the rents will be too high where people might not want to rent it. If you put it too bad of an area, no matter what you try to rent it for, people just don't want to live there. The third thing is you got to make the land deal. Not only do you have to find all those other things and get it right and get the right location, you have to make the land deal. If the deal doesn't work out, well, back to the drawing board. And the last thing, you have to negotiate with a nice, amazing contractor for an affordable rate so that way when you build this, you can still rent it or people will rent it and you can make a healthy cash flow. Another huge one for level of difficulty, you have to find the right plan. The one that works and maximizes square footage and has the best floor plan for your tenants or yourself. Also, you could use one from the contractor, but it's just something he built that one time that he didn't put as much heart and soul as you're trying to in this property. Another huge one, you have to have money set aside for unexpected issues. For example, something that happened to me after 14 years of doing real estate. I went to buy a property. After everything's done, I go dig up for my pads and there's a buried house underneath it. It cost me $30,000 and I could have done it where the slab was post-tensioning and cost a little bit more money to do that, but why not just take that old house out and do it right? You just have to make sure you always have a little extra budget from the bank or from you that we can do the project right and never cut corners. The third difference is expense. And the larger the expense of the project, the larger the note. So I'm actually going to give you some personal examples of my own portfolio from the same amount of units to the same amount of units when it comes down to expense from my experience. To show you how drastic the word expense can be between build versus buy, let's talk about my oldest property from 1976 that I ended up paying $350,000 for 8 units. What an amazing deal that was. Now, let's talk about the newest 8 units that I've built here on the channel. Those 8 units cost me $826,000 to build it. Both are 8 units, both bring in very good cash flows, but there is a huge difference in expense. The fourth major difference is maintenance. When it comes down to that 1976 property, it needs to be updated. There are a lot of things that always need to be fixed when it comes to an older property. Understand that the property, to fix it, quote unquote, right, the new investor might want to rip out, because it has paneling in these units, it might want to rip out that paneling and put back sheetrock, brand new insulation, and change out everything in the property. But that's going to cost roughly $20,000 per unit, because what's going to happen is once you rip it out, you're going to be like, well, I want to change this and I want to do that. And you're always going to want to do a little bit more because we've already started. And if you do that times 8 units, that is $160,000 more dollars that goes into that $350,000 deal. That $350,000 deal, once you start fixing the road and all of the maintenance and all the other things, it's no longer such a sweet deal if you're gonna make the property desirable. But even though I own an older property, I'm trying to spend what I teach on this channel as smart money. Instead of ripping all that paneling out, putting back sheetrock, I painted the paneling in those units, shared it once again here on the channel, but that way you could see why not spend, it cost me $6,000 per unit, roughly, versus $20,000 per unit. So that way I could make sure when the tenant shows up to that apartment, they're like, wow, I visualize myself here. It feels like home, versus there is so much wood. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck lived here? And a big pro to brand new construction is less maintenance. For example, my new 8 are completely covered under warranty for 1 year. After that, we have a limited warranty where I pay discounted rates and I'm paying cost of materials to get those things fixed. As long as you actually take care of your new construction property and keep all that regular maintenance going, you keep pests, termites, and all that out. You also make sure that you change your AC filters, and anytime a little bitty fix happens, you take care of it right away. You don't leave it to fester and cause a ton of problems down the road. Also, a brand new build or a newer buy are going to actually get market rent value versus an older property that's been renovated or needs some love that you're gonna have to take hundreds and hundreds of dollars off to make sure that it gets rented and rented fast. The sixth thing, and this one is huge. This is probably one of the main reasons people avoid building new properties besides not understanding them. Time before that property cash flows. When it comes to building a property, it's always going to take more time. So the con of this is it'll always take more time to build something from the ground up. What this actually allows you to do though is it allows you to be a little frustrated with the property, to have some more issues with the property and not wanting to deal with it. You become a little upset with the property, and also it'll allow you to kind of lose interest and focus on the property as well. The pro of this example is going to go to buying, because when you buy a property, you're already probably going to have a tenant that's living in that property, or if you buy a home, it could be move-in ready or a small little paint, small little fixes, but it's going to have a little bit of time between the buy and the move-in versus that terribly long building process that a lot of people just don't want to deal with. When you build a project, you're going to have months of interest, and those interest payments grow every single time that the job does. Once you get to the first stage, they're going to want their draw. Then you get to the second stage, and they're going to want another draw. And then when you get to the third stage of the property, they're going to want another draw. And then finally the fourth stage, and they'll leave a little bit at the end. But understand, every draw, your interest is growing. The money that you're borrowing from that bank to build this project, that interest is becoming more. And regardless of it being an interest-only loan that you have complete control over along with your loan officer, you're still not going to want to pay those interest payments every single month. It's just not that much fun. So you got to keep that eye on the prize that I'm building this and I'm going to have all this equity, or I'm going to have this stuff that I did all my research and I believe in my process, because it does get a little frustrating over time. Another huge con to building: expect delays on the job. Understand that hurricanes are not the only delay that you're going to have. You can have just a ton of rain where you just can't pour your cement. Your pad is just too mushy to dig out. You're going to have weather delays, and you're going to have other just general delays. So understand, when the contractor tells you that it's going to take 3 months for him to build a duplex, he still might build it in 5 to 6. So be prepared to where you're not ready to move in and you're not exhausting all the money you had to pay the interest payment while you're not living or cash flowing this property. Just make sure you understand that you always build a little cushion down the line. Another pro/con, depending on how you look at it, is you will not inherit any tenants when you build brand new construction. I do see this as a pro in a lot of senses. You don't have to deal with that terrible tenant that fusses about everything, that doesn't pay their rent on time. But you also, as the con, are going to miss out on that very nice gentleman or that very nice lady that has lived there for the past 4 or 5 years and doesn't really plan on leaving. And that's a great thing when you can rent that property to that person and they stay for a very long time. And my seventh and final one between build versus buy is the appraisal. For the example of appraisals, I'm going to show you two different properties that I truly feel are very comparable and within about 6 years of age. The first property in this example is right here. It is my Common Street property. I absolutely love it. It is 7 units that are super large. They are a 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath property. They are all brick, besides a little bit of hardy plank for a little bit of depth, I would think. I like that it breaks it up. And I ended up buying this property. They wanted $1.5 million for it, and I paid $1.1 million. And it appraises for about $1.3 million. So thank goodness I didn't pay the $1.5. The second property in this example is going to be a property that I built 100% myself. At 25 years old, you've heard about this one a lot. This was when I built my enterprise complex where I built 5 units and I knew I could do more and I knew I could handle more. Then, just on this channel back in 2020, I finished up my duplex that I actually shared the entire process here as well. I'm going to link that video in the description below because it's a great video, especially when it comes to building a duplex. It covers everything, including the numbers. And I built that property for $530,000. I ended up not paying that because I had a dispute with the contractor. I ended up paying $470,000, but for this example, let's use $530,000. The new duplex that I built here on the channel, if my memory serves me correctly, I paid $176,000 for it. So when you add the $530,000 without the discount, as well as the $176,000, you get $706,000 for the property that I built myself. Now, the other property was a 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath. This property is a 2-bedroom, 2 bath. The extra half bath is honestly just fluff. It doesn't really matter and people just enjoy it, but they don't always want to pay for it. So when you build them, build a 2-bedroom, 2 bath. But they appraise, because they're a little smaller, for $1.2 million. That 1.2 minus the $706,000 is almost $500,000 of equity for me. That is a whole lot better than the $200,000 of equity for me to go and buy it from someone else and get a really good deal. I mean, they did take off $400,000 from their asking price, but thank goodness I didn't pay that. So when comparing apples to apples, I actually prefer building over buying. Now understand, it also always comes down to the deal. If you can find an amazing deal on a buy, buy it. If you can actually not find any deals on the market, build it. Understand that even though building an apartment has a lot more headache, stress, and takes more capital, it's still worth it when it comes to apples in the long run. There's a reason that someone else built that and they didn't sell it for a loss. If they do sell it for a loss, they were in a bind, they managed it poorly, and they got in a little bit over their heads, which I always tell you not to do. So if you have the capital to build a project as well as the patience, which is a lot of it, I suggest to always have that in your repertoire. You want to make sure that you're a triple threat in real estate. You want to be able to build, you want to be able to buy, you want to be able to renovate. You got to make sure that you can do all three, because if you don't, you're going to miss out on a deal. So, that being said, I still think building is my preferred way, but I will always buy an amazing deal as long as it makes sense in my model. So, that being said, that's it for the video, guys. If you enjoy videos like this, please power up that like button, hit that subscribe button, and notification bell. We post every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, and I would love to see you there. Also remember that we've got a ton of giveaways that we do here and there. We're going to hit 90,000 subscribers. If we haven't already done it, let's see if this video ages well for me. But 90,000 subscribers, we're giving away $1,000. So please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Also remember that I 100% believe in you. I know you can do anything you set your mind to, and never let anyone tell you any differently. Hope you have a fantastic afternoon, and I will see you on the next one.